Hey g'day, boys and girls, Sheilas and blokes, my name is Jacob and today I want to share 6 more monsters I want to see return in Monster Hunter 6/Wilds. Except I don't actually. Don't get me wrong, I like most of the monsters I'm about to share here today. And I'll be one very happy hunter if any of these actually make it into the game's roster. But I just don't think Wilds is the best game for them to be returning in. So please allow me to explain who these 6 monsters are and why I feel this way about them. But real quick though, before I begin, I just want to say these monsters are all listed in order of their release appearance and not my personal preference. I can't pick favorites, alright? There is just way too many monsters in this series. I love to be doing that. So with that all said and done, let's get into it. Number 1, Great Jaggi. And the number 1 greatest monster in the series ever, 20th anniversary pole be damned, this is the 3rd generation's dog wyvern, Great Jaggi. Everyone loves the Great Jaggi. He is simply the GOAT, and I'll fight anyone who claims that emo Royal Ludroth is greater. But anyway, the Great Jaggi was a very early game monster appearing in every 3rd generation game and Monster Hunter 4 as the first real large monster hunt, or at least one of them anyway. No doubt this is why the Great Jaggi has left every hunter who's played these games with incredibly fond memories for this beloved bird wyvern. Great Jaggi's attacks were incredibly simple, as you'd expect of any early game tutorial monster, consisting of a few bites, jumps, tail whips, and body slams. This GOAT was the alpha to a pack of smaller Jaggis who would often step in to help the Great Jaggi fend off attacking hunters. If you've played Rise, you'll likely be familiar with the Jaggi's 2 cousins, the Baggy and the Wogie, who fight basically 1-to-1 the same as the Jaggi, just he doesn't inflict any status ailments like those two did. I love the Great Jaggi, and I want him to return in every new Mon Hun game, especially after being robbed of his spot in both Generations and Rise as they feature the smaller Jaggis and even the Jaggi gear, but no Great Jaggi. However, as much as I love the Jaggi and I want him to return, I don't think Wilds game design would accommodate for a worthy return of our boy. Like sure, the new pack system sounds promising for a pack leading monster, but the Great Jaggi's pack consists entirely of small weak monsters, whereas in Wilds so far the packs we've seen are of Doshiguma, a strong monster species twice the size of the Great Jaggi, and Balahara, who themselves are all individual large monsters that lurk together. A pack of small Jaggis just doesn't hold a candle up to that. I just can't see the Great Jaggi fitting into Wilds without he himself being in a pack of other Great Jaggis, which is a concept that sounds so alien to me because of in-universe lore that states male Jaggis fight each other to become the Great Jaggi, presumably killing any losing Jaggis. Unless perhaps the Forbidden Lands are so dangerous that this instinct goes away in favor of banding together for survival, but like, I'm beginning to go full Sir David Attenborough on the Great Jaggi, so I'll have to stop. I honestly believe it would be best for the Great Jaggi to return in the next portable entry, presuming of course the focus for those games is still on just yourself and the target monster. I can only hope no distant relative of the Great Macau or Great Jezzychii appears to block our Great Jaggi's long-awaited return for a 3rd time running. Number 2, Lagiacrus. The flagship of Monster Hunter Tri and the Lord of the Seas in the flesh, this is Lagiacrus. And I think Laggy is such a super easy pick for Wilds, having ranked all the way up at 3rd place in the 20th anniversary poll, and its rare species, the Abyssal Lagiacrus, surprisingly at the 12th spot. I would say Lagiacrus is basically guaranteed to return at this point. In the 3rd generation, Lagiacrus was an incredibly fun hunt, fought both on land and underwater, boasting an array of heavy-hitting attacks to a large area, as is common with the Leviathan monster type, and also strong electrical attacks that inflict hunters with Thunderblight. These electric attacks are at their most potent when underwater, where the Lagiacrus truly shines in every possible aspect. After all, Lagi is the Lord of the Seas and not the Lord of the Land. That title belongs to Rathian. And it's Wild's lack of underwater combat that leads me to not particularly wanting Lagiacrus to return for this installment. I mean, Lagi has returned before as a purely on-land hunt in Generations, but it had to adopt the Ivory Lagiacrus moveset to do it. Generations' version of Lagiacrus is not the real Lagiacrus from its 3rd gen debut us fans both want and deserve. There'll definitely be some who wouldn't mind as long as Lagi is back, myself included, but I personally hope Capcom waits another few years to cook up a new game with underwater combat so Lagiacrus gets a proper homecoming. I believe the devs are capable of pulling this off now with over a decade of past feedback to build off of, alongside new advancements in technology and a stronger piece of hardware than we had with the Wii and the 3DS. Number 3. Diamoralis. Another pivotal underwater monster from the 3rd generation here with the smelting black flame dragon of calamity, Diamoralis. This monstrous giant was the final online boss of Monster Hunter 3 Ultimate's hub story. Fought both on land and underwater, the Diamoralis would shift back and forth between these terrains as the hunt progressed. It'll begin half submerged in the ocean, aerial bombarding hunters trying to close the distance before beaching itself a few minutes later to engage the hunters on their own turf in a difficult and dangerous battle. Proving that no matter the terrain Diamoralis chose, it still held every advantage over the hunters. Or that is if you didn't come into the hunt with slime/blast weapons, that was so poorly balanced in 3 Ultimate that you could keep Diamoralis or really any monster stagger-locked the entire hunt. However, if you weren't choosing to cheese the fight, then you'll likely find yourself making use of the many armaments found around the area to help destroy the Diamoralis' magma cores for a quicker and easier kill. I could keep yapping, but I think that's more than enough about how this fight functioned. I've only fought Diamoralis a small handful of times, every hunt of which I adored. Diamoralis was an extremely fun hunt that made fantastic use of the 3rd generation's underwater combat, which, much like with Lagiacrus, is why I'm hoping to see it return in a game with said underwater combat. Same can be said for Cetus, but I mean, Cetus is a bloody whale, so it can only ever be underwater. Anyway, this is a video about monsters for Wilds, so it's about time I get to the bloody point. I suspect there is a non-0% chance Capcom might bring Diamoralis back in Monster Hunter 6. Iceborne's edition of Alatreon and Fatalis whipped up some crazy stir in the new player base about the Black Dragons, whereas there was none before it. I'd sometimes see people dunk on Iceborne's sequel, Rise Sunbreak, for not featuring any of these Black Dragons, and a stupid win everything armor set that I personally hope we never get again. And a part of me is worried Capcom sees this too. That they feel the pressure to cave in and add another Black Dragon as some super endgame hunt to satisfy these loud fans and legitimize Wilds as a real Monster Hunter game. The Diamoralis' Fatalis-like appearance and Black Dragon title were no coincidence, as Capcom purposely designed this Elder Dragon as an underwater version of Fatalis. But it's also as much a land-based hunt as it is a water one, even if this is not the most optimal way to fight it. So to wrap this mess of a segment up, could Diamoralis potentially return as Wild's equivalent of the Fatalis update? Well, for the integrity of Diamoralis and Capcom's original vision for it, I'm hoping not. Even though I think it would be bloody awesome to see it again here with the newer hardware, better graphical detail, and a reworked fight. However, such reworks have already happened with Lagiacrus and Royal Ludroth, so the thought of it is not entirely out of the question. Only time will tell. Number 4. Nursilla. We're moving up to the 4th generation with the shadow spider, Nasilla. This creepy crawly arachnid was the series' first ever Temnosieran, paving the path for Wild's Lullabarina to follow in. Nasilla thus far has only appeared in the 4th generation mainline games, where it showcased the series' new focus on verticality to perfection. In battle, the Nasilla would web-sling around hunters and crawl along the walls and web-sealing floors, possessing a balanced range of attacks that accommodate for whatever position the Spooter was currently in. Many of these attacks also inflicted status ailments, which depending on the attack would leave the hunter with either poison, deadly poison, sleep, or the new ailment, at least at the time anyway, webbed. It's somewhat ironic of me to say that I actually love the Nasilla, as I'm someone who suffers from arachnophobia IRL, and I also live in the spider capital of the world, Australia. To Capcom's immense credit, they did a miraculous job designing the Temnosierans in a way that it's easy to tell they are spiders, but different enough that they don't trigger my arachnophobia. I loved how stylized the Nasilla was, and I also loved its armor design. I actually used this armor in 4 Ultimate throughout my low, high, and G rank quest progression. Slap a rainbow pigment on it, and you have yourself a rave. But for all of my surprising love of this spider, it saddens me to admit I don't think Wilds will be Nasilla's chance at a comeback. The aforementioned Lullabarina copies the Nasilla's monster model practically one-to-one. Lullabarina also calls the same biome as Nasilla home. If Nasilla was somehow in Wilds, then it would awkwardly clash with the Lullabarina for the spotlight, and given what we've seen so far on Lullabarina, then Nasilla would surely be overshadowed by it. This isn't a case like the Radabarn copying Ulgrin in Monster Hunter World. Those two at least inhabited different locales from each other. But perhaps there is still room for Nasilla in Wilds expansion after Lullabarina gets a year of its own to shine. At least for subspecies, Shrouded Nasilla would be uncontested in the Windward Plains, provided the Rachnakoducky doesn't return instead. Man, I just really want to see Nasilla again in the current generation's graphics. Maybe next time. Number 5, Gemoff. The antithesis to the 2nd generation, and one of 4 flagship monsters in Monster Hunter Generations, is the giant beast Gemoff. I'm someone who started this series with Freedom Unite, so in a way, I always thought of Poke Village and the Snowy Mountains as my home. So when this big woolly behemoth appeared in Mon Hun Generations as this game's new representative of the 2nd generation, I was naturally drawn to it. Gemoff is an incredibly large monster when compared to your stock standard large monsters. She comically fits only just into the map she's fought on. In battle, Gemoff uses her sheer size and brute strength to trample hunters or coat them in snow using her long trunk, inflicting hunters with Ice Blight and the Snowman ailment. Personally, I find Gemoff's size to a disadvantage. She's easy to hit from how big the monster's model is, and her attacks are the easiest to dodge out of all of the Fated 4. And I have heard people say her enormous size is why she hasn't returned since Generations Ultimate, as no maps in the 5th generation would comfortably fit a Gemoff. However, I am quite confident Rise's Frost Islands would have sufficed if they were to have tried. Wilds is suiting up to have large open area maps, the likes of which could easily fit a dozen Gemoffs and then some. But as much as I'd like to have her back in Wilds, I hope Capcom holds off adding Gemoff until the next installment, or at the very least Wilds expansion, for one very simple reason. Gemoff is a member of the Fated 4, a group of 4 monsters consisting of also the Astalos, Mizitsune, and Glavenus. These other 3 Fated 4 members have already returned throughout the 5th generation. Most annoyingly of all, the Flametail Glavenus in an expansion named Iceborne. Personally, I feel it's wrong to keep breaking up the quartet in this way, so I'd much rather we wait another game before bringing any of the Fated 4 back, and when we do, we bring all 4 of them back at once. Waiting just one game would allow the other 3 monsters time to rest away from public eye, making their return almost as exciting as Gemoff's long awaited comeback. Number 6. Valkana. This last monster is why I said at the start of the video I liked most of the monsters on this list, because I'm not actually a huge fan of the Ice Dragon Valkana. Iceborne as a whole left a rather bad taste in my mouth. As a result, I don't view the game's flagship monster in very high regards. But this video isn't about why I hate Valkana, it's about why I would want it back. I'll mostly skip the poorly explained ecology section this time, as I feel it's pointless to do one for Valkana. Everyone who is into Monster Hunter nowadays watching these kinds of videos has likely played a 5th gen game starring this agile ice and frostblight inflicting Elder Dragon. Truth be told, I think Valkana was done dirty in both Iceborne and Rise Sunbreak. Over the past 2 decades, there has been a long-held tradition among series' flagship monsters that after their initial appearance in their game, these monsters would receive an upgraded iteration in the next. I'll share a few examples here, like Monster Hunter 1's Rathalos to Monster Hunter G's Azure and Silver Rathalos, or Rise's Magnamalo to Sunbreak's Scorned Magnamalo. Expansion flagships usually feature in the next game or 2 over. Such was the case for Freedom Unite's Nagakuga to Portable Third's Green and 3 Ultimates Lucent Nagakugas. The only 2 flagship monsters so far who haven't received this treatment are 4 Ultimates Regios and Iceborne's Valkana. And out of these 2, I feel the most snubbed monster was the Valkana. This frosty Elder Dragon made a return in Sunbreak as the 4th major title update monster, exactly how it was in Iceborne. Granted though, Valk did return with its Arc-Tempered moveset, but on that note I should say, I don't count Arc-Tempered Valkana as a true variant the likes of which Raging Brachydios or Crimson Glow Valstrax are. It's possible though Capcom does view it that way, and I am entirely wrong. Same thing with the Apex Regios, even though Apex Regios and AT Valkana are basically the same monsters as the original, just tinted a slightly different shade and given a few new attacks. I want Valkana to return as some new, powerful, rare species or whatever else Capcom decides to make it. I just don't think Wild should be that game. This Elder Dragon already had 2 major appearances back to back in the 5th gen, or as major as Valkana could muster, having been overshadowed in every possible way by the Ruiner no Gigante, Fatalis, and Primordial Malzeno, the latter who got its variant in the very same expansion the Malzeno first appeared in. It must really suck being a Valkana fan. I'm not one of you, but I at least share in your pain. And that was 6 more monsters I wouldn't mind returning in Monster Hunter 6/Wilds, but I'd also prefer it if they didn't. This video was intended as a closing segment to another video I made called 6 Monsters I Want to See Return in Monster Hunter Wilds, but as I felt this would drag that other video on for far too long at the end, I opted to make this separate video discussing all of these monsters here in further detail. If you haven't watched that first video yet, I encourage you to do so. I'll leave a link up on screen now and also in the description. If you're enjoying this little series so far, I intend to make one more part to complete the trilogy with 6 frontier monsters I want to see return in Monster Hunter Wilds. That next one's going to have to wait a little bit though, because first I'll be making a video comprehensively sharing my thoughts on Wild's 4th trailer, Scarlet Forest gameplay, and the news interviews surrounding the former 2 reveals. I'll also be headed to PAX Australia during the middle of October, and I intend to try making a video about my experience there. I was hoping that this would be my chance to play Monster Hunter Wilds demo, like many others have done already at similar conventions, but sadly Capcom decided to ditch us Aussie fans in favour of the Frenchies. I better hear many G Suisse Montes the following week to make up for the sheer disappointment this has brought me. But anyway, if you're still here with me at the end, cheers. Your support goes a long way with helping my channel grow, so please consider liking the video if you liked it or dislike it if you didn't. I'm open to dialogue in the comments, so please share your thoughts on the video and what you'd like to see / not see and why. And please subscribe for more content like this. Alright, that's all. Have a good one, people. Cheers.